Thank you for joining us this evening for the Artists Exchange, a group created by and for artists to share new work, ideas, resources, and opportunities monthly over a glass of wine or tea as you prefer. So grab your beverage and join us as we discover the work of two artists at the crossroads of clay, ink, and light. I'm Shelley Rugg, the Executive Director at Gallery Route 1 and co-producer of the Artists Exchange. For our presentation today, we ask that you please stay muted unless we ask you to unmute. For best viewing, select speaker view from the top right corner of the Zoom viewing screen. We want you to know that you are being recorded for future viewing on our website and YouTube channel. Let somebody in. Now, please join me in welcoming writer, co-producer, and host of the Artists Exchange, East Bay artist, Pamela Blattner. She has taught at universities and colleges throughout the country, including the University of Chicago, University of San Francisco, the San Francisco Art Institute, Tufts University, and at Pixar Animation Studios. In 2017, she was appointed U.S. Arts Envoy to Burma. And here's Pamela.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. That was lovely. And good evening and welcome to Artist Exchange. Tonight, our special guests are Elizabeth Addison and Vicki Gunter, two Bay Area artists whose passion, curiosity, and deep concern for the natural world are reflected in the ideas and the materials and methods that they use to express their ideas. Both artists engage in a meditative process, studying and contemplating the object or the subject that they're working with, finding inspiration, and then losing themselves in creating the thing itself. Okay, artist note number one, simply because I've known her longest, is Elizabeth Addison, a Berkeley-based visual artist, curator, and educator. She is unique in that she uses visual art and scientific observation to create stories that are deeply rooted in the natural world. Addison sees herself as an amateur scientist, someone whose processes allow her to be both artist and experimenter. Her primary media of expression are printmaking, digital art, and installation. The artist's current body of work uses dimensional collage, which she'll explain to us, to incorporate original photography and digital imagery inspired by her daily wanderings near her Berkeley home and summers along the Smith River near the Oregon border. Okay, take it away, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Pamela. And hi, everyone. I'll dive right in and get started with my slides. Can you start, Shelley? Great. Okay, hold on a sec. I need to fix something here. Okay. I was born in Chicago at the water's edge, learning to swim within my very first year of life. The eldest of four daughters, produced in quick succession, I leaned into drawing and dreaminess to cope with the chaos. My parents were the children of immigrants. They encouraged scientific curiosity, outdoor activity, and engagement with the arts. They warned, however, that the life of an artist is one of extreme hardship, and I should pursue a real career. During my early school years, I doodled for friends and illustrated school memos and community newsletters, cementing my secret identity as an artist. In college, I felt obligated to remain on the sciences track, but was drawn to music and art making. I became art editor for the Daily Northwestern, creating editorial cartoons, illustrations, and preparing artwork for print. I also fell deeply, passionately in love with printmaking, especially etching and silkscreen. My anthropology professor hired me to illustrate a book, and there were more opportunities like this. These experiences provided a skill set that was just right for an entry-level art director position. Next, please. While enjoying my graduation present to myself, a San Francisco vacation, I was hired by Macy's California Advertising in San Francisco and worked alongside passionate creatives in the same must-make-a-living boat. My career took me from San Francisco to New York to Chicago and back to San Francisco by 1990. By that time, I was married. I continued in the biz with my own boutique design and marketing office and gave birth to two beautiful, spirited daughters. Next, please. I was introduced to Sherry Ma through a friend, and in the late 90s, Sherry introduced me to artist Janet Lipkin in her free print painting and monotype workshops. In Janet's workshop, I reunited with my love, printmaking, but this time it was spontaneous and colorful. I had discovered monotype. My experimental and signature methods developed during this time, most notably a non-toxic image transfer process with embossments and multiple passes. The monoprint shown here, the Perfect Body series at 38-inch zipper, are representative of this period. A complex one because I was also finding my footing during and after divorce. Sourced from a 1937 Life magazine, these images of women from antiquated ads and idealized households spoke to me. I gave them new context and hinted at behind-the-scenes realities. They recollect, in a sense, the cognitive dissonance I experienced on fashion photo shoots as a female art director. Next, please. My prints grew intimate and personal and close up. The image above is a portrait of my elder daughter at 13. Galloping horses coif her hair, embossed keys float upon her sweatshirt. This is what she was like. Below is a self-portrait in 4 panels, titled Blink. Next, please. I transitioned to teaching visual and digital art and computer science. I also fell in love with a human. I married again and welcomed 2 additional amazing young women into my life, my stepdaughters. It was also the right time to fulfill my graduate school dream. And in 2009, I enrolled in JFKU's MFA program. My thesis, the Crater Project, was a creative investigation that included artwork, writings, scientific analysis, and a visit to its real-life corollary. Misted Crater, the triptych above, is one of my most beloved works from this project. And by the way, Pamela Blotner was my brilliant MFA thesis and exhibition mentor. Next, please. My interests expanded to include micro worlds and the consistency in nature's forms. I became an artist in residence at Kala Art Institute, where these works were created. The monotype on the left, Red Leaf 1, is 30 by 22 inches, yet represents a teeny tiny portion of a leaf, less than 1/4 of an inch. Imagery in the etching top right, Hapu'u, was adapted from my photograph of a cloud forest tree fern on the Big Island. Nautilus from my round series, bottom right, is a monotype utilizing my signature transfer technique. Next, please. Encouraged by artist Naomi Judy Shintani in 2015, I joined NCWCA, that's Northern California Women's Caucus for Art. This energized my post-MFA art practice, and I completed another major creative investigation, culminating in a 2016 solo exhibition titled They Come From Outer Space. Here I collaborated with an Australian geoscientist who supplied images of micrometeorites. I reimagined these minute fossilized space travelers in 100,000 times larger than life monoprints and etchings, and epistolary style transcript of our communications accompany this body of work as well. Next, please. In 2018, I participated in Naomi's New Year Mandala project, where artists created daily mandala during the first 12 days in January. I couldn't stop at just 12, and it morphed into my next project, the daily practice. Old, failed, or incomplete artworks were given new lives. I transformed drawers full of scraps into daily mandala artworks. The collage, for instance, top right, is comprised of 2 etching test strips. Next, please. This got me into my studio every day, and I started to experiment with building up surfaces and creating sculptural collages. Next, please. It's important to mention that a touchstone during these years was my annual involvement with Somart's Dia de los Muertos, where I experimented with media and installation modalities. Even in years when I was overwhelmed with work and parenting, Renee Yanez urged my participation. At the top is my 2018 Infinity Mirror installation honoring my mother and Renee. Both passed away that year. My infinity mirrors are, for the most part, collages on a mirror substrate. At the bottom is another favorite Day of the Dead project titled Tonglen Bift. Pamela collaborated with me to create a magical dimensional floating tree installation. The roots expand and contract like breathing lungs. In the background, shadow presences meander via video projection. Next, please. I began to incorporate digital artwork into my daily practice, and here is one of my favorites from 2019 titled Under Over. As soon as the pandemic hit, I was all in with digital mandalas and made it my COVID project called Pandemania Days. Next, please. Each day I posted a mandala inspired by my walks. Each was accompanied by a short journal entry. This is a visual overview of the various stages of my process, from photo inspiration to digital interpretation to printing at Kala Art Institute. And the print sizes range from 12 by 12 to 36 by 36 inches. I went as big as I could in some cases. The mandala here is titled Augury. Next, please. Here are two favorites from Pandemania Days. Commonly discarded above and brittle beauty below. Next, please. Another important touchstone for me and my family is our annual summer stay at the Smith River, California's last wild river near the Oregon border. Inspired by the Smith and created in her honor, this Pandemania Days mandala is titled Engraving Memories. It was one of the works featured in One Nest Earthworks, a collaborative exhibition with Vicki, where we paired our works in sets or small groupings. Next, please. This is one of my most memorable experiences. This was great, Vicki. Next, please. Always a welcoming and spiritual presence in my life, the Smith River spoke to me with urgency during the pandemic shutdown. She emerged as my focus, both as an ecological bright star, but also as a muse. By the time restrictions were lifted, I was immersed in river imagery. Alignment, top right, was created during the pandemic from monoprints. Space-Time Ripples below from 2022 is an archival digital print created by layering squiggle shapes that reference string theory visualizations. Next, please. Then, in an aha moment, I decided to take my 2D digital prints to the next level, making them dimensional with various paper sculpture techniques. Here's my collage station on a typical day. Next, please. These experimentations resulted in the Smith River Reveries. Reverie 1 recalls a gathering of butterflies that seem to materialize out of thin air. The underpainting is cobalt, and the silkscreen layer below is deep violet. Arc discs cut from another Smith River print float upon the surface. Next, please. Reverie 3 utilizes a mostly unmodified Smith River photograph printed on 100% cotton paper. Radiating from its center, I implanted discs that morph into wave shapes. The discs have the water print on one side and paint or monotype on the opposite. Some discs are made from embossed metallic gold art papers as well. Gives a little shine. I didn't glaze this work. Instead, it's mounted, then placed in a floater frame. Next, please. Internalizing is from the Qualities series. These are meditations on cherished qualities of the Smith. Here, I interpret the otherworldly way light plays upon her surface at dawn. Next, please. Homecoming, also from the Quality series, is a meditation on the Smiths' welcoming emerald depths and how it feels to be immersed. Next, please. This is a detail from Release, which I want you to view and see before you see the work as a whole. Here, I revisited my string theory space-time ripples and squiggles and incorporated them subtly. Next, please. Release is an archival digital print with gold leaf. There is a sense of timelessness, past, present, future, when I'm with the river. Her beauty and fierceness teaches and motivates. I contribute a portion of sales to the Smith River Alliance in our annual gift. It's heartening that she is here in a natural state. Being a part of the Smiths' preservation and future is something that I can affect. However, freshwater equity is a global concern. Next, please. Here I am at the Smith River in recent years, in my element. But let's go back to the previous slide, please. I want to leave you with this image, Release. It's one of my personal favorites. And thank you so much for allowing me to share with you this evening.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was great. And I think we will probably wait to see what Vicki has for us before we ask questions. And so that's a rather clumsy segue into introducing Vicki Gunter. Vicki lives and works on Ohlone land in East Oakland, where hiking and gardening in nature sustain her body and her heart. As an artist and an environmentalist, she's drawn to the infinite potential of clay, which she fires into stone. During her 53-year career, Gunter has worked as an artist, dancer, teacher, motion therapist, and a defender of eco-civil justice. In recent years, she's returned to ceramic sculpture. My work in clay, she writes, is drawn from the knowledge that everything, our food, home, clothes, toys, tools, all come from the clay of the earth. All right, Vicki, welcome.
Thank you. And thanks for coming, everyone. And thank you, Gallery Route 1. So, first slide. That's me and family last year on the Dipsea Trail on Mount Tam. I've been hiking since early childhood on this trail and beyond. Nature has been profoundly informative in my life. Next. And so has dance. My first ceramic teacher was Clayton Bailey, which was life-changing. And yet I went to SF State and joined the 5-month strike to create the first Black Studies department in the country during the Civil Rights Movement. And after 2 years, dropped out, and I spent the next 45 years as a dancer. Here I am, Sister Kate, choreographed to Duke Ellington by dance pioneer Jane Brown. I designed and sewed the costume. In 1974, I was certified as a dancer and healer through a 4-year apprenticeship with Jane. Next. I choreographed a 4-part suite about the physical and social justices called work dances, which included industrial seamstress, which I was for a time, clerical and construction workers. In The Machinist, in this image, Jane is moving less and less until folded into a box, as machines do more and more. I am the huntress leaping to feed family. This suite toured Europe on video and was published as The Other America, Art and the Labor Movement in the United States. Next. My suite, Art Moves, was about the motion of the medium itself. Sculpture, this one, was one of my most successful pieces. Above us peaks the folded marionette set that began as a block of marble as we became the sculpture and exploded out of it and came back together. Interesting, since now I am the sculptor, not the sculpture. Next. This is Peter Brown's piece, Pending, with musical director Michael D. Miller on alto sax. I'm on the pendulum. Next. Now Peter's on the pendulum, and now he's my husband. We have 2 wonderful daughters. We danced on, under, around, and over these pendulums. We also taught all ages and abilities in our school and in public schools all over the East Bay. Next. Intertwined was inspired by 3 Joel Jones paintings. This painting is interwoven. Her painting Excitement about orgasm inspired this suite. The secret is out. Next. Peter and I were gentrified out of our studio and theater. Life changed. Ceramics and writing came to the surface. I wrote a children's book based on reading to our children every night. Next, I wanted to illustrate it with sculptures. This led to the reading chair. Joel Jones invited me to exhibit the full installation, reading and performance at her gallery Oakopolis as part of Oakland's First Fridays in 2008. Next. I'm in the costume created by our daughter, Corey, behind Apple, part of the reading chair installation, which was made up of 595 porcelain and Black Mountain clay blossoms and branches. Next. I fell in love with clay again. In 2010, I submitted to my first juried show at the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History through an ACGA call. 3 pieces from the reading chair were chosen. The chair received the People's Choice Award. All of these pieces were slab built. Next. I'm next to carrot stew shared with lions at the Santa Cruz Museum. Next. The death of the family dog inspired my Lost series. This one is Daddy, Tuolumne or Bust. Like the vulture, he was an adventurer and peaceful. He's carrying a ceramic replica of the granite rock he held, knowing his ashes were going to be scattered in Tuolumne Meadows upon his death. His favorite place on earth. This piece showed in Yosemite Valley's museum gallery. Next. It's not one thing, it's everything, is the American flag as experienced by the 99%, a term that came out of Occupy. Each stripe has actual clay lithographed headlines of 13 different losses. This piece was an award winner during the California Ceramics Conference and was purchased for the dining room of a Santa Barbara home. Next. Nan Memories Collected, the last in the Lost series, is a memorial to my friend and sister-in-law, Nan Brown. She was a photographer who studied with Ansel Adams, loved her Hasselblad camera and California wildflowers. A fired clay lithograph of her self-portrait is in the lens, and her photo from her series Trailers Collected is visible in the viewfinder on the top. This piece was an award winner at Richmond Art Center, thanks in part to Jan Worm. Thanks, Jan. Next. At the age of 9, on my first backpacking trip of many, I stopped to examine thousands of yellow-legged frogs in the Sierras. In 2012, I learned that they were 95% gone. I spoke to a scientist studying this. He said, yes, amphibians are like the canary in the coal mine for all species on the planet. So with a broken heart, I began my Canary and Elephant series. This is global warning. An endangered tiger salamander, red-legged and yellow-legged frog are replacing the canary on its perch in the cage atop the miner's helmet. The canary is on top of the resuscitation cage with humanity looking like they're smoldering coal in the inside. Next. Tapped Out continues the series with an abstraction of Mount Kenness. I was the youngest to climb it. Climbing across its vast, steep glacier was scary and exciting. The mountain vessel, with canary wings on its glacier, fills with ice cubes that slowly melt into the oil-filled tumbler below. The glacier is one of the largest in California and will be gone in about 5 years. California depends on 1/3 of its drinking water from the snowmelt and glaciers in the Sierras. Next. Mother Nature, a wall piece and 10th in the series, is also subtly kinetic from melting ice. She cries into the earth cradled in her arms. She won People's Choice Award and Jurors Award during the California Ceramics Conference. The elephant in the room, profit-driven corporate power. Next. The elephant started to become too heavy, and I moved on to our California native flowers, 7 times normal size in clay. My intent to enchant you into guardianship. All of the 12 pieces in the In Everything series transformed somehow into a DNA helix. This pistil in the center of this flower is twisted into a DNA helix. All living things share the same ancestry with those 4 molecules in differing arrangements and numbers. This is our poppy. I watched a bee gather pollen from a poppy in my garden. It inspired me to make the final clear finish for everything in this series with melted beeswax. Next. Thirsty Tiger is a memory of bending down to drink from a cold, clean mountain stream and looking up to see my first tiger lily. I was in awe. I was the tiger lily. I was the stream. And my dad used to call me Tiger. The water element is ceramic and melted glass frit and copper. Next. Then George Floyd was brutally murdered and I reeled. It was a turning point for many. I couldn't continue as I was. After 3 weeks of pacing, not sleeping, trying to figure what to create, I made baby names 1950 to 2020. The first name on the left top is Emmett Till, whose 1950 murder sparked the civil rights movement. The last name is George Floyd's. Oscar Grant, top right, was murdered down the street from me. The 44 names on this piece were all somebody's baby. Next. In 2021, I was invited by Ruth Santee to make 2 new pieces for her show, Posey's A Pocketful. She is the co-owner of Transmission Galleries and Gearbox Gallery. She asked me to make a cardinal catchfly, also in my In Everything series. Its copper DNA helix is at the top. In real life, it's only about this big. All of these pieces are quite large. Next. One Nest, Canary and Elephant series again, was initially inspired back in 2017 when the news that people in Yemen were starving at a level worse than any other in 100 years. Elizabeth's mandalas, meaning the universe, the one, the many, and our dual collaboration during the pandemic, got me to finally create the piece, and its meaning expanded. And yes, it is in the shape of a stop sign. Next. Shooting Star Wishes Amid the Anthropocene is a new piece in my New Era series. It will be exhibited for the first time at NY2CA, a new gallery in Venetia. I am the first invited artist to exhibit with abstract painter and co-owner Terry Twigg. The flowers in the piece are California shooting stars, again, 7 times normal size. To get the full meaning of the piece, you must see its other side. The grand opening is this Saturday, April 22nd, Earth Day, 3 to 6 p.m. I will be exhibiting 16 of my sculptures, collaborating with Greenpeace and donating an equal percentage of all my sales to Sagoriate Land Trust and SF Baykeeper. Please come and support the rematriation of the land we live on in the Bay Area, the Bay it surrounds, art, and a new gallery. Check the chat for details. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vicki. That's great. Tell us one more time what that last piece was called.
Shooting Star Wishes Amid the Anthropocene. And everyone is invited to make wishes on Post-its that are located around the sculpture of their thoughts, their actions, their wishes at the gallery this coming up. And the show runs through June 4th if you can't make it this Saturday, but I hope you do.
Thank you. Okay. Do you two, Elizabeth and Vicki, have questions for each other? Has something popped up that you hadn't thought of before?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
just, reviewing all of this now, it made me realize that, when we met many years ago for the first time through other friends at Oakopolis, our work didn't intersect that much.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were reconnecting and over the years, we discovered that somehow our work really had sort of the same spirit in it. And what I really love about your new work and the way you so poetically stated it is that you're enchanting into guardianship.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's sort of my goal too. I just never really articulated it that way. I didn't want to represent the anger, the ugly, to feed the monsters. I really wanted to celebrate the beauty that we have and create dialogue and a call to action from that.
Yeah, and I think our where I feel like we really first recognized that we intersected was we were both in a climate crisis show at Artworks downtown, but we weren't there at the gallery at the same time. I just saw your work and I went, oh, wow, Elizabeth's doing interesting stuff now. And then we ran into each other at the 10-year anniversary of the David Brower Center. And we just happened to be standing next to each other. And Elizabeth goes, we should do a collaboration. And it really was wonderful working together.
That was just before COVID.
Yeah. And then we did all this work and then nobody could come to the show.
But we did it.
We
And
did it
people did
anyway.
come to the show.
Yeah.
And yeah.
A lot of this work, I made during that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
A very fruitful time that I'm still working off of that momentum.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and see if anyone else has questions to open this up in our audience. Any questions, either conceptual or, let's see, what's the opposite of conceptual? Someone else has to come up with that.
Or does anyone have any questions
Dad,
about
you're
techniques?
muted.
Okay, so my question is, where do you guys go from where you are now? I mean, I know you've got some shows coming up, but one of the things I find is getting inspired by other people, or today finding some little pieces of a tree trunk falling down and finding beauty in it. And I thought, oh, I collected them and thought, what can I do with them? So I find that there's always tangents of possible things to pursue. And so I try to harness them together with what I'm doing. So I'm curious, how do you handle that? Do you try to stay the course with the work you're doing and the events that are happening historically and, not only environmentally, but, socially?
I just never know what's going to, beg me to create it next. I do what I feel is happening with my work now is that in working with these different series, I've been focusing on the In Everything and the Canary and Elephant and the New Era in the Lost series. The New Era series, when George Floyd was murdered, it forced me to find the unity of all of those things. And so in the work I'm doing right now, I'm trying to explore drawing in with the beauty, but also exposing the challenges, like in that piece that's new at NY2CA. That was what I'm attempting. So, and it has a surprise on its opposite side, as I said.
Probably for you too.
Likewise. Yeah.
How about you, Elizabeth?
Well, I think in a similar fashion, these series seem to find me. I get busy, I have ideas. And the best example is my latest muse, the Smith River. I've always been, really emotionally, intellectually, and involved in many social ways in the environmental issues. A very important thing to me. I guess you could say it's my way of coping with a sense of premature loss, which is something I developed at a very young age when my father would take my sisters and I on road trips in Illinois. And, we would see miles and miles of beautiful, sprawling farmland. And he would say, in 5 years, this is all going to be gone. And my sisters and I were like, oh, and he loved being outside, obviously. And this has been a passion my entire life. How can I do something about the loss, the constant degradation of this planet, our only planet? And so in a way, all of the work I do is somewhat involved with this in very esoteric ways, and spending so much time with the river, especially as my family blended in the 2000s, and with Greg's family. She's really been talking to me. The Smith, has been asking me to do something, to communicate, and I really didn't know how to do it. And then it was sort of a combination of all these different techniques and other projects I was working on, that it just sort of gelled. It came together. And sometimes I
see
just
that-
see an image like the micrometeorites. I read Scientific American and I went, oh my God, these are so cool. And this is probably how water came to the planet 4 billion years ago. And I contacted the scientist, and that led to, they come from outer space.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't get to say that at this show, I collaborated with Greenpeace in creating QR codes next to every piece so that people can explore the scientific, information, or, where to buy native plants, or, just all kinds of further information for us all to explore. And that was a really challenging and interesting process. Also, I'm really hoping to be able to support San Francisco Baykeeper. I don't know if you should look into who they are. If you don't know who they are, they're really important for defending our bay, the health of the bay, the health of all the residents around the bay. They have scientists and lawyers who are very active daily. They're in fact suing a company in Benicia right now, where my show is going to be, that has been dumping coal dust into the bay.
Hmm.
So, and
Wow.
I see somebody was asking,
Yeah, we have a
who
question.
are our artists,
Right, who are your influences?
our influencers? Well, I was initially very heavily influenced by the ceramic funk movement. I studied with Clayton Bailey, as I said, which was, my eyes were opened by giant inflating penises and peeing dogs and burping clams and just all kinds of wild things, and going to his Crockett studio, and it was amazing. But I've also been very influenced by Judy Chicago. I saw her show at the MoMA when it first showed, and the dinner party, and Michelle Greger. I just love her work, and Lisa Reinertsen, and I feel they both really combine the beauty and the political civil rights work together. And Michelangelo and sewing and nature and the clay itself.
Nice answer. I guess we need to roll the show along, and we're coming to the end of our journey together. And so Pamela and I started the Artists Exchange to create a platform for artists to learn about each other's work, ideas, and processes. The program's also a forum for finding out about various opportunities for artists. So if you know of an opportunity, or you have a great exhibition that we should go see, go ahead and share it with us. You can put links in the chat. Elizabeth and Vicki already did that. They put links to shows that they're in.
Oh, I hope so.
Do you have anything for anyone, Pamela, or anyone else in the audience?
I don't have anything particular. I have a question actually. And it's for Vicki. And it's because for a while in time, it was very, very hard to find Benicia. And the story was that the residents took down all the street signs so that they could keep the place to themselves. And so I just want to make sure that
All the street signs are up, Pamela.
okay.
I didn't know that story.
I thought
Okay.
that was about Bolinas.
I think it's probably both at this point.
Yeah. Now the gallery is on First Street in Benicia, and it's really pretty lovely, and there's a lot of great restaurants there too. Also, I forgot to mention that I also am in Art and Ecology, an online show that O'Hanlon Center for the Arts did. And Obi Kaufman, who's written many amazing environmental books and illustrated all of them himself, was the juror for that show. And it's really worth looking at that online exhibit. And there's a poem that goes with it in sections as well.
It's a really great show online. And I guess I was in the physical version of that show. And
Oh, you were?
oh yeah,
I didn't know that. How come I didn't know that?
I don't know, but that already came down. So
Uh-huh.
that's I wish galleries would have shows for longer than 3 or 4 weeks. And I understand the economies, involved in all of this. But it would be nice to see that because people like to go back and revisit but I understand how this works. I just want to say that I'm really, really proud of this project I'm working on with Jan Worm. And I have to thank her for being the leadership of the Bay Area Women's Artist Legacy Project. And we just came out with our third publication about the 80s. And it follows a somewhat self-selected group of women artists and giving them context and history and their import in the Bay Area and how they've affected the artistic culture here. And we're hoping that other groups will sort of take on our model and do the same because it's important to document this important work. It's a really, really exciting series. And I will put that in the chat, the website for that. And also I have 2 shows coming up, and I'll be facilitating creating another show for Northern California Women's Caucus for Art titled Portals. That will be at Arc Gallery in San Francisco. And that is for NCWCA members. And if you wish to find out more about it, go to our website at ncwca.org. In the fall, also another national call will be coming out, and that will be open to everyone. And that is titled Transcendental Loves and Devastating Hates. So think passion and look for that post on the website very soon.
Thank you.
I want to remind everyone, we have some really excellent exhibitions happening at Gallery Route 1 right now. And I'm going to put a link in the chat to our website so you can learn more about those shows. Go ahead,
Absolutely. Oh, I just wanted to remind everyone who did not already know that there is the William Kentridge show, which was he had a series of lectures at the Berkeley Art Museum. He's part of the Out of Africa show, which was downstairs in the museum, and it's still there. There's a film of his, an animated film, and a film by a couple films by Doug Atkins, which are just breathtaking. Atkinson's work, or at least the piece that impressed me most, is about the no better word than rape of the environment in Namibia. So please do see it while it's there.
I forgot to say, when I answered that call to the ACGA show at Santa Cruz Museum, I am now a board member of ACGA, the Association of Clay and Glass Artists, and I just want to give them a plug as a great organization. And if we're looking for new sites to do clay and glass shows. And if anybody has ideas for that, let me know.
Wonderful. And I'm gonna drop another link in the chat. This one is if you're interested in becoming an artist member at Gallery Route 1, we do have room for you. And so you can learn about applying for that. I also wanted to invite everyone to drop your email address in the chat if you're not on Gallery Route 1's email list yet. You can put your email address in the chat and we'll add you. And it's a great way to find out about what we're up to and when exhibition proposals are being accepted for our visiting artist program, for example, or when we have our juried shows. So, yeah.
Okay, my turn.
I think it is.
Okay, next month on May 17th, our artist exchange guests will be visiting artist, activist, painter, and artist, activist, painter, Jean Lamar. And we had her paired with Emmanuel Montoya, but he unfortunately will not be able to join us. So if anyone has an idea about an artist, particularly a printmaker or someone of a particularly interesting background that you think might be a good partner for Jean, who is of Paiute heritage and does a lot of work about being Native American, please let us know. And let's see. Oh, and I just found out today something really exciting. For June, we have 2 artists that just contacted me, and one of them is Bella Feldman, and she will be talking with Mee Preckler, who was at one point a student of hers. And one of the things that they'll talk about is a subject we haven't really encompassed here on Artist Exchange, which is making art and teaching and how the two blend and affect each other. And let's see, Shelley, you want to wrap up, or shall I send out my net?
Your net.
My net that says if you are interested in being in appearing at a future artist exchange event, please go ahead and send me an email. I am at PamelaBlotner@gmail.com. And I think I'm the only Blotner in California, so easy to remember. And if you were moved by today's presentation and want to support the work that Gallery Route 1 does, and we do a lot more than this, please do go to our website. Click donate at the top of the homepage, then select community outreach donations and choose Artist Exchange from the drop-down menu.
Yeah, I just put the link to that page in the chat, so it makes it really easy. And thanks again for coming, everyone. And thanks to our artists, Elizabeth and Vicki. Wonderful about your work. And thank you, Pamela, for being an amazing seeker of greatness. And
and Shelley for being all around wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. And we look forward to seeing you at our next Artist Exchange on May 17th. Thanks again, everybody.